Welcome ladies, my name is Farron Abraham. I'm a 5th-year medical student. I'm also a health and fitness coach for women over the age of 40. And in today's video, I'm going to explain to you why does fat loss and muscle building get harder for aging women. Not only am I going to tell you why, but I'm going to give you the solution to tackle all of this. Now, shall we begin? So when it comes to fat loss, one of the reasons why it can be more difficult as an aging woman is simply because your metabolic rate decreases. What is your metabolic rate? It's simply the rate at which your body expends energy. The way you're using energy, processing energy is different now. It's different and it's changing. And that's simply because of many reasons. The main reasons being activity. When you're at this age, you're less active if you've noticed. Of course, when you're younger, you're moving around a lot more. You may have had kids and as they're growing up, you're playing with them a lot when you're younger. And now this is changing. Your kids may be older, you're sitting around a lot. You may have a very sedentary lifestyle because of your job as well. So generally your activity is low. So this can make your metabolic rate slow down. Now muscle is another reason, and this is simply due to the fact that you're aging. You're losing around 3 to 8% of muscle every decade from the age of 30. Your body isn't at its optimum. You can't sustain a high level of hormone health, everything. It reaches a peak and then you slowly start to descend down, unless you're approaching menopause and it's just gonna go straight down like this from there. But we'll get onto that. Another reason is your hormones. A lot of hormones are responsible for your metabolic health. These are hormones like your thyroid hormone, insulin, cortisol. So these are important for making sure they have optimum metabolic health. And with women, they're more susceptible to thyroid dysfunctions. And that's simply because of ancestral heritage. Women have very, very powerful immune systems, but this can backfire. As they age, they can become more susceptible to those immune attacks on the thyroid. And this is how women can get Hashimoto's thyroiditis. This makes their metabolism slow down, which naturally makes them be less active. It can make them eat more, and it can make it easier for women to gain weight. Also, hormones like estrogen, as we reach menopause, we'll get into that as well, can affect your metabolic rate. Now, there's a particular organelle in your body that is responsible for your metabolism, and that's your mitochondria. And you might know this as the powerhouse of the cell. That's how we all knew it in biology, the powerhouse of the cell. And it's responsible for everything in terms of metabolism. The very reason your cells are able to function is because of mitochondria. It produces ATP, and this is how your cells utilize energy. And as you age, unfortunately, the quality of mitochondria decrease. You start to lose mitochondria, they start to lose their function, and this will impede on your metabolic rates. You'll start to slow down a lot more as you age. Now again, menopause will contribute to this because estrogen does play a role with mitochondrial function. It allows new mitochondria to be made. So estrogen will play a role and this will impede on metabolic function. So overall, your metabolism can decrease, but you can improve your mitochondrial health. So if your metabolism is slowing down, it's not just because of menopause. You're allowing it to happen, if that makes sense. Because you have control of all of this. To a certain degree, you have control of all of this. We're not talking about when you're 80 years old or 70 years old, you're just fresh 40. You're just fresh 50. You're still young, come on. Next is insulin resistance. That increases with aging women specifically because of decreases in estrogen as they reach menopause. Estrogen is such a dominant hormone and is responsible for increasing insulin sensitivity in your muscles and your liver, which stores glucose in a different form. It's called glycogen. So when estrogen levels drop, insulin resistance increases, unfortunately. So when your cells aren't responding to insulin, which is the hormone responsible for allowing your cells to take up glucose and nutrients, energy fluctuations will happen. Belly fat will increase. You'll start to store more fat. They call it central belly fat, storing more fat in your abdomen, and this can increase. Also, hunger levels will increase as well. And this will also be due to increases in belly fat, which we'll also get into. Another reason is the big M, menopause. That sudden drop in estrogen, other hormones as well, progesterone, also testosterone. This just changes everything. You start to store more fat in your belly because estrogen is that hormone that keeps women curvy. So you're not storing fat around your thighs, your glutes, all the areas you want the fat to go to. You're storing it in your belly more now. So you're getting that central belly fat. Another thing is this will affect your mood and motivation. So when you finally want to lose weight and you might have gained a lot of central belly fat as you're approaching menopause, or you might be postmenopausal, and now you want to lose weight, because of these hormone changes and the effects on your mood and motivation, this can go down. And then when you finally want to lose weight, this can make fat loss a whole lot harder. A whole lot harder. Another is cortisol increase. Decrease in estrogen will cause increases in cortisol, and this will also contribute to the central belly fat that I was talking about. Another thing that will also change is your hunger hormones. They're going to be fluctuating like crazy. If you're obese or overweight woman, naturally you're going to be producing more levels of ghrelin, which is I call it the greedy hormone. That's the way you can remember it, the greedy hormone, G for ghrelin. This is the hormone that makes you want to eat, is your hunger hormone. And then you have hormones like leptin, which is the hunger hormone, which tells you, we're full now, let's stop eating. That can decrease if you're obese or overweight as a woman. And how you got there in the first place could be one of these reasons. Also, hormones in your gut like PYY and CCK will also decrease as well. So your feeling of fullness, these are fullness hormones, your feelings of fullness, it might take more food for you to feel full. So your perception of actually feeling full decreases, and this can make it a whole lot easier for you to gain weight. Another is motivation and lifestyle. We talked about motivation already because of the effects of menopause, but also your lifestyle. You might have a corporate job, you might have a job where you're very busy. It also might require you to stay at home. You might be in the office all the time, you might be seated a lot. So generally, you're not gonna have time to go on walks, to make sure you're getting your 10 to 15K steps a day, making sure that you're doing cardio after the gym, making sure you're even going to the gym. A lot of these things do take time, but it will come down to your priorities and what you actually think is important for you. I've coached women with kids who literally do not have time for anything else, but they prioritize this because this is all they have time for. So this is where they put their energy into. And yes, they still transform. After that, they still have the life that they want. They still have time to do other things, but priorities matters. Priorities matters. Also, commitment will go down. Because of the age you're at, you might feel like it's over, there's nothing you can do. You're dead wrong though. It's not too late and it's never too late. So also doubts. The amount of doubts you have will also increase because of everything that I've mentioned. The age you're at, the lifestyle, motivation, everything you're going through, you might have doubts. Can you really lose weight? You might be on your weight loss journey already. You're 2 months in, you're starting to feel the effects. You feel like, is it worth it? I'm already over the age of 40, I'm already over 50. Is it really worth it? Do I need to prioritize my health? Do I need to look good? You start to think it and you start to doubt. But there's no need for that. Now, moving on. The big one, muscle building. Why does muscle building get harder for aging women? Let's get into it. Sarcopenia. Now, this is something that happens naturally as you age. Sarcopenia and osteoporosis. This is more of a condition that happens just as a result of aging. You lose muscle mass, you lose bone mass with osteoporosis. And this can make it a lot harder to build muscle, especially when you're weak. Another reason is menopause, the big M. So annoying, yes I know, but you can combat this. So menopause will be a reason to why you cannot build as much muscle, because estrogen has a protective function for muscle. It protects your heart as well, which is why women are more susceptible to cardiovascular diseases, because they lose that protection. Also, protection for your skeletal muscle. So with less protection, it's going to be harder for you to build muscle, and your muscles become more susceptible to damage. And this also impairs recovery as well. So menopause, that's another reason. And menopause also called decreases in testosterone. Testosterone play a role in your motivation, your mood, and also your ability to build muscle, because you need testosterone because it's an anabolic hormone. Just like insulin's anabolic hormone, you need testosterone to build muscle. So when that decreases, it makes building muscle a lot harder. Another is your protein intake. Women, regardless of age, they're not having enough protein. Generally, a lot of women aren't having enough protein. I'm not talking about the gym girls, I'm talking about the women who don't even work out. Generally, you don't have enough protein, which makes losing muscle even easier. So when you want to finally build it and you're still not eating enough protein, guess what? It's going to be harder to build muscle. Another reason is your nervous system. As you age, every system in your body starts to become less functional, starts to become less effective. And your nervous system is one of them. And you need your nervous system for building muscle, because your nervous system sending a stimulus, firing those neurons to move your muscle and lift that weight. And with your nervous system, as you age, it becomes less functional. And this can make actual coordination a lot more difficult, especially when you don't move a lot and you've never done movements before or been to the gym your whole life. When you finally start, coordinating your movements can take some time, but it's something that you can overcome. So there's nothing to worry about. I also wrote MUR, which is motor unit recruitment. Don't worry about too much. This is more your brain's ability to activate muscles when you're working them. That can decrease because your nervous system becomes less functional. So overall, this hinders your ability to build muscle. Now, finally, one of the main causes is chronic inflammation. Now, you might have heard that word inflammation a lot, especially in the wellness industry. Everybody likes to throw that word around, inflammation, but they don't know what it actually means. And they like to use it to pick on your insecurities. But anyway, let's actually dive into what inflammation is. Inflammation is just your body's response to anything that is causing it damage. It could be pathogens and things like infections. So it's causing your body to react, and your body becomes inflamed when it's having an immune response. But this can backfire because you don't always want inflammation to happen when you don't want it to happen. It's only needed for when you need it. If it's happening when you don't want it to happen, this can be very dangerous because, as I mentioned before, it happens when your body is under attack. So your body becomes in a state of stress. And this can happen when you have fat cells, which essentially hypertrophy, so they get bigger. When fat cells get bigger, when you're overweight or obese, they start to act differently. They become dysregulated and dysfunctional. So they're not performing its normal function. By the way, fat cells are amazing. Fat is brilliant. It helps with many endocrine functions. It helps with managing our hunger levels. It also contributes to fighting infections. So we need fat. Fat is brilliant. But when you're having excess fat on your body, this can be harmful. And when you're chronically inflamed, things like muscle building become harder because your muscles will be damaged. It also hinders processes in your body. So when insulin wants to get into your cell and your cell is inflamed, and fat cells produce something called adipokines. And these are cytokines, which are inflammatory agents. And these will cause damage when your body doesn't need to fight infections. And this can cause damage to your muscles, can cause damage to your liver. And this is why you get all sorts of problems with diabetes and just being overweight if you have metabolic syndrome. This can cause an array of problems. And this will impede on muscle recovery and also the way your body takes in nutrients. It will impede on all those functions. Now, the solution. How on earth are you going to combat all of this? I'm going to tell you, and you're going to be able to combat every single one of these topics that I've covered. Now, when it comes to nutrition, you want to focus on micronutrients. And I know a lot of people like to focus on macronutrients, which are your carbs, your fats, your protein. We want to focus on micronutrients, especially even more when you're in a deficit. So when you're eating less, it's very easy for you to be deficient in nutrients. And when you're deficient in nutrients, your body is always trying to reach a state of homeostasis or balance. So your body's going to make you want to consume more food so you actually meet your nutritional needs. That's why it's very important to hit your micronutrient goals. So all your minerals, your vitamins, and they're responsible for all the function in your body. Your thyroid function is going to be responsible for energy metabolism, everything. So you want to make sure that you're actually hitting your micronutrient goals. And this is going to allow you to sustain a calorie deficit for a longer period of time, as opposed to someone who doesn't focus on this. And this is why I focus on this with my clients a lot. Next, you want to focus on anti-inflammatory foods. And the reason being is this is going to help combat the chronic inflammation. It's going to also help with insulin resistance. Remember what I said about inflammation? It impedes on function in the body. So if you can bring down inflammation, it will be able to allow your body to function better. These are foods like salmon, absolutely amazing. It's packed with omega-3s, also avocados, but berries are amazing. Packed with antioxidants like polyphenols, so it's going to help protect you and fight inflammation. That's exactly what you want. So focus on foods like this. Also, fiber-rich foods, absolutely amazing for your gut health. It's going to help actually control your blood sugar levels. And this is going to help control your hunger as well. It's also going to help with insulin resistance as well. So you want a fiber-rich meal. And these are foods like legumes, beans, berries, leafy greens, whole grains as well. They all work brilliantly. Nuts and seeds as well. Can't forget that. Chia seeds. This is what I always recommend for my clients. Chia seeds, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I think it's got the most fiber per gram, which is amazing. I think 100 grams has got like 30 grams of fiber, something ridiculous like that. Now, next, you want to be getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. That's the most optimal range. That's the sweet spot. This is going to help actually manage your hunger hormones. When you don't get enough sleep, this can increase your hunger hormone, ghrelin, remember the greedy hormone, and it can decrease leptin, which is your fullness hormone. And when these are imbalanced, what would happen is you start to feel hungrier. Also, getting just an adequate amount of sleep is going to help control your insulin levels. It's going to help combat insulin resistance. Another thing you can do is increase your NEATs, which is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. These are things like little movements during the day, standing up instead of sitting down. That can even burn calories, believe it or not. So if you're at home, if you have a desk, I recommend that you get a standing desk, or I recommend they actually take periodic breaks where you're actually moving. Or just when you're taking calls, make sure you're moving. When you're going to groceries, park far away so you're actually doing more walking. Things like this will increase your NEATs. Another thing is cardio. You want to be doing cardio 3 to 5 times a week. I would recommend starting off doing 3 times a week and then increase slowly. And you want to be doing it to the point where you're doing it at least 5 times a week for 30 minutes at a pace of 47 kilometers per hour on the treadmill, or just walking outside at a fairly quick pace, more of a brisk walk. And next, you want to make sure you're tracking your food. Not only tracking your food, but tracking everything, I would say. The more data you have, the more clarity you have, because the more you know where you're going wrong and the more trends you can spot and predict. When you're tracking your food, you know exactly what's going in you. Remember, I emphasized the importance of micronutrients. You start to understand your body more, you start to understand food more, and you know exactly how much micronutrients you're eating as well. So you know what foods you need to increase to make sure that you're optimizing your health. So you want to make sure you're tracking. Track. You have a little bite, you track it. You eat your kids' food, you track it. I don't care. Just make a little note that you actually had a bite or extra nibble, or even more than that, so you know where you're going wrong if you go wrong. A lot of people, when they're in the weight loss journey, they make a lot of mistakes and they start to blame it on their metabolism instead of just holding themselves accountable. And this is why you need to track. Now, when it comes to muscle build, you need to make sure you're having enough protein. Protein-rich foods like your meats, your eggs, dairy, also protein powder as well. And you also want to make sure you're having carbs. Carbs are just as important as protein when it comes to muscle building, because carbs allows your muscles to store glycogen, allows your muscles to store carbs, and your muscles utilize these carbs. Guess what also uses carbs? Your brain. So if you're having enough carbs, this will actually allow you to have better workouts. You'll be able to push yourself harder when you're actually having more carbs. Also, you want to make sure you're having B vitamin rich foods. Things like eggs and salmon, fatty fish, which are absolutely packed with B vitamins. Things like meats, liver, absolutely packed with B vitamins. They will contribute to mitochondrial function. And you need that for healthy metabolism. Also going to contribute to your nervous system. Next, you want to make sure you're having omega-3. Omega-3 is an essential fatty acid that we need, as we don't produce it as humans. So this is something that you need in your diet, and it's going to work as an anti-inflammatory. It's going to help with insulin resistance as well, and you're going to get this in foods like fatty fish, like salmon, also nuts and seeds as well, which work brilliantly. So you want to make sure you're having enough of that. Next, strength training. Absolutely obvious. If you want to build muscle, you have to lift weights. You can't avoid that, unfortunately. If you were trying to avoid that, you need to build muscle. You need to start strength training in some way. 2 to 4 days is okay. As long as you're going to the gym or working out home 2 to 4 days a week, you're going to build a substantial amount of muscle, and you also need to train hard. So make sure you're doing that as well. So that's it. That's how you're going to combat every single one of these things. That's how you're going to live a healthier life. That's how you're going to optimize your health and also build muscle. Also, don't hesitate to shout me on Instagram. I'm always available if you've got questions or anything to ask, or if you want just further inquiries on coaching or anything.